Yes, you can feel very, very passionate about your work, but it's not a result of following your passion or finding your passion. Hey badasses, welcome back to the Badass Careers YouTube channel, which is all about helping you to design, build, or create your dream career. So I know that this isn't my usual setup, but I just had to jump on here to come and talk to you guys quickly about something that I need you to know, which is about one of the biggest career myths out there, which is basically that if you just follow your passion or you find your passion, then you will have the keys to a successful and fulfilling and meaningful career. I'm sure you've heard it somewhere from some like really high level TED Talks or self-help gurus online, right? Basically they say that you find your passion and then suddenly meaningful work will appear. And we're gonna talk about in this video why this is really weak career advice to not be followed, and what you can do instead. And if you're watching this video, maybe you can relate to being that kind of person that wants to feel really passionate about work they're doing and their contribution to the world, and that's totally okay. But if you're watching this video, you may also relate to feeling a little bit stuck in your career and maybe how to go about actually getting this. Maybe you feel a bit lost and overwhelmed with the bajillion different options that exist out there, not knowing which is the right one for you, hashtag decision fatigue. Or maybe you can relate to feeling quite stagnant and bored at work, like you've lost your spark, kind of painfully aware that you're not living up to your fullest potential. Or maybe you can relate to wondering at work, like, is this it? You know, constantly questioning if you're on the right path in life. Or maybe you have some people around you, some role models who you know love what they do and are really passionate about their work, and you're wondering if it's even possible for you or how you can just get amongst that. And if you've been feeling this way, I just want to let you know that you're completely normal. In fact, only 29% of millennials are actually engaged in their work, which means that they actually care about the work that they do and the company that they do it for. And around 70% of people in the workforce feel like they're not in roles that align with who they are as people, which is just so sad because it's obviously one of the biggest factors to career happiness and success, which we're going to get to a little bit later in this video. And so how does this happen? Well, I think it has a lot to do with the expectations that have been placed on us from society, from our parents, from our communities. In this more traditional education system, we are basically pushed towards careers that we have seen in the past to be very safe and secure and stable, or traditionally well paid, which is there's a whole nother video, but basically we know that after around $70,000 per year, increased salary and money doesn't actually make you happier. So we make these huge life-changing decisions when we're teenagers about what we want to do based on things that don't even make us happy or are someone else's definition of success and not necessarily ours. And then 5 years later, you find yourself in a career path thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, what have I done? So what should you do instead? So if you're looking around where you're like, okay, I want to live my life, I want to have a career that lights me up, and I want to do work that I love. So what's the prevailing advice out there, right? Follow your passion. So let's break down a little bit why this is such a myth. Firstly, a lot of us are very multi-passionate people, okay? We're whole selves, like we've got lots of passions and things going on. So yes, I'm obsessed with careers and the psychology of the workplace and the future of work, but I'm also like grade A obsessed with French pastries and cats. And I love personal development and goal setting and all sorts of things. And you might find that you're just as equally passionate about health and fitness and running as you are with writing poetry, okay? We're complex, multi-passionate beings. Or on the other hand, the other reason that this is crappy advice is some people don't really feel like they have one big passion, right? Or a very compelling passion that they want to turn into a career. So you might have lots of hobbies, you might enjoy knitting and baking and hanging out with your kids and swimming and crochet, but you don't necessarily want to make a career out of those things. And that's totally okay. Like many, in fact, most hobbies should just stay hobbies. We don't need to monetize everything that we enjoy in life. But one of the main reasons this is just crappy advice in general as well is that we're only passionate. We can only say that we're passionate about things that we've already tried, okay? So it's very past focused, right? So there may be loads of things out there that would be exceptional at and become really passionate about, but because we haven't tried them yet, we don't know. So if you're only following your passions, you're only following things that you've already had the chance to experience in life. And if you think about it, if you grew up riding horses and doing equestrian on your family's property estate. Yeah, you might be really passionate about horses, but there might be someone out there who hasn't had access to these kinds of opportunities and they don't know. So that's really limiting as well, because you can only really become passionate about things that you've had access to and tried before. And the last reason that this is crappy career advice is that 65% of today's kids are going to end up in roles that haven't even been invented yet. Just let that drop. So with the rise of artificial intelligence and robotics, new professions are constantly emerging, old ones are becoming obsolete. And so we're going to have to adapt and find work that lights us up. And again, it can't be about things we're already passionate about, because this stuff didn't even exist before. So no, finding a passion and creating a career around it is not the answer. So what is? Basically, when we break it down to the fundamentals, you don't follow your passions, you become passionate about what you do. And so how do we achieve this? Well, I like to use Dan Pink's model from his famous best-selling book Drive, which talks about what intrinsically motivates people, what has them jumping out of bed and working when they don't even need to work, what people would do for free if they weren't even being paid, right? It taps into those deepest levels of engagement and motivation. And it's a framework that involves autonomy, mastery, and purpose, which leads to ultimate engagement at work. Engagement at work meaning that you care and you love and you're in terms of what you do day to day for work. So let's apply this to the career space. What does it look like to have a job you love versus a job that you hate in these different areas? So let's start with mastery. So with mastery, in a job that you love, you feel like you're living up to your potential, like you're growing, like you're building a talent stack, like you're doing what you do best every day, okay? So you're employing those natural strengths, those natural gifts that come to you, and you're doing your best work every day. That's a job you love. When you're looking at mastery in a job that you hate, this is often not what's not working, right? You feel like you've stagnated. You may be busy, but not intellectually stimulated, okay? You've got a large volume of work, but you find it easy. You're not learning anything new. You're not known for anything in particular. So you're not becoming an expert or really known for something. When you look at the model through the autonomy lens, what does it look like to have a job you love? It means you feel in control of what you do and how you do it. You feel empowered to take ownership of tasks, expand your role, and find your unique ways of approaching things. Basically, people want to be given a frame and then the autonomy to be able to figure out the best way to get that work done. In a job you hate, this is what it would feel like from an autonomy perspective. You would feel micromanaged and controlled. You might feel like you're being checked up on, like you're maybe not fully trusted to do the work that you said that you would do. And you're expected to mindlessly follow instructions or do things the way they've always been done without questioning the status quo, right? Like you're given instructions and you have to do it that way just because, which can feel incredibly draining from an autonomy perspective. And the last area is purpose. So from a purpose perspective, when you're in a job you love, you're working towards something worthwhile. You have a feeling of meaning and contribution, like you're making an impact. You understand where you fit into the bigger picture and the rationale behind the tasks that you're taking on, why you're doing what you do. When your purpose need isn't being fulfilled and you feel like you're in a job you hate, this is usually why. It's because you feel like the work that you're doing doesn't matter and that you're not making an impact. And although you understand what you need to get done, you don't necessarily understand why it's important to do the work that you're doing. So how can we get more mastery, more autonomy, and more purpose in our lives? I'm about to break it down for you right now. So when it comes to mastery, so mastery is fundamentally that desire to improve. If you're motivated by mastery, you're likely to see your potential as being unlimited, and you'll be constantly seeking to improve your skills and expertise and knowledge through learning and through practice. And for me, it essentially comes down in the workplace to using your natural strengths and building your skills, okay? So first you need to know what your strengths are. So people who know what their natural strengths are and use them regularly at work are 6 times more engaged in their jobs and 3 times more likely to report having an excellent quality of life. They perform better and they get promotions faster. And basically from a neuroscience perspective, when you do things that you're naturally good at, it releases neurochemicals in your brain which make you feel good. And this then allows the prefrontal cortex, so the area just behind your forehead here, this area of the brain, the executive functioning area of your brain, which is in charge of things like creativity and problem solving and strategic thinking, connecting the dots, decision making. It actually allows this area of the brain, when you feel good and you have these neurochemicals circulating around your brain, to perform better. So you do things that you're naturally good at, it feels good, and you perform better. And it is just a virtuous cycle. And of course, when you're a high achiever and you're doing things that you're naturally good at, you're going to build your skill stack, your talent stack, and your expertise faster. You're going to become known for things. You're going to have hot skills on the very competitive job market. You're working towards mastery and you're going to be paid accordingly, right? So when you follow your natural strengths, the money always follows, trust me. And I think this is why I love Simon Sinek's quote, which is working hard for something we don't care about is called stress, and working hard for something that we love is called passion. So it's not a passive approach to passion. It's very much like we work hard, we get good at things, and we become passionate. So there's a couple of ways that we can find out what our natural strengths are, what our gifts are, what we're naturally good at. So I quite like a free online test called high5test.com. It starts to get you thinking and reflecting about what these things might be and gives you some language to kind of label your strengths, which is quite nice. And the other thing is that I've actually already recorded an entire video on how to know what your natural strengths are, which I will link down below for you. You can watch that and really start to do some decent reflecting, ask yourself some coaching questions, and really start to analyze what your natural strengths might be and how you might want to create work around those. And now, what about autonomy? How can you create more autonomy in your career? So autonomy is basically fundamentally the need to direct your own work and life. So to be fully motivated, optimally motivated, you need to ultimately feel like you're in control of what you do, how you do it, and who you do it with. Okay, so it's quite key to a very happy and meaningful life. And because this is so different for everyone, and we all need different levels of this, it essentially comes down to your personality type and your values. So your personality type is very much around your preferences as to how you navigate this world. So it's where you get your energy from, it's how you process information, it's how you like to make decisions, and how you like to structure your time and your life. So if you have a strong extroversion preference, you might prefer to work in an environment where you've got very strong relationships with your colleagues, frequent interaction, you're always jumping into meetings, brainstorming collectively, sounding boards. It's very relationships focused and there's a lot of interaction and discussion. Whereas if you have a strong introversion preference, you might actually prefer environments which allow you to put your headphones in and get on and get focused and do that deep work. I know as an introvert, open spaces don't actually work that well for me because it's full of constant distraction, for example. Your personality preference is important to understand because it doesn't mean that you can't work in ways that aren't naturally aligned to your personality preferences, but it means that it's going to be constantly taking that much more energy. It's kind of like needing to write a one-page essay with the wrong hand, right? With the hand that you don't usually use. So you have, for example, I have a natural preference to write with my right hand. So I could write a one-page letter with my left hand. Of course I could, but it's going to take longer. It's going to be harder on me. It's just not my natural preference to do so. And it's exactly the same for your personality preference. So in terms of finding out what your personality preference is, I recommend a website called 16personalities.com. It's basically based on the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator test, and it allows you to start your thinking again about the kind of environment in which you would naturally thrive. I've also done an entire video on this about personality. I recommend watching that first before jumping into the test because it's going to give you some good theory behind so you can connect the dots a little bit better as well once you actually complete the test. And the second component of autonomy, as I mentioned before, it's around values. So this is another huge area in how you like to work and how you like to approach your life. So for example, if one of your values is around innovation and being futuristic and really, trends in the future and what's next, if that's a value that's very important to you in your work, you're going to be very happy around maybe startups and innovation and new technologies and business innovation. These are going to be the kinds of roles and environments in which you would really enjoy. And being someone who works on history and is maybe an archivist, working in the archives, maybe that's not going to feel so good to you. Likewise, a lot of people have learning and growth and continuous development as part of their values, their core values. They need it to be happy at work. So when you're interviewing for a job and they're telling you, oh, you know, we like to learn on the job a lot, that can actually be a really big red flag, because it's like, okay, so there's basically no training budget. You're not going to invest in me in terms of trainings, conferences, mentorship. You know, that's kind of like ding, 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 ding. So if that's really important to you, it's really important that you know that, because otherwise you're going to end up in an environment that doesn't feel like it's giving you the autonomy, the space that you need to be happy at work. And surprise, surprise, because I love this stuff, I have an entire video on your values as well. We'll link it down below. Go and watch that afterwards. I'm giving you a bit of a watch list here to binge through, but it will be worth it, because this is setting yourself up for happiness in your career, right? And who doesn't want that? Now, the last element of Daniel Pink's model is around finding purpose, because people become very disengaged or demotivated at work if they cannot understand or invest in that bigger picture, right? But for those who believe that they're actually working towards something that is bigger and more important than just themselves, they're often the most hardworking, productive, and engaged individuals. Knowing your purpose or your why also gives you a deeper sense of satisfaction and meaning, and like you're making a contribution and an impact that's important to you. And I often have millennials coming to me being like, oh, I'm just not making an impact in my role. I'm just not contributing to the world. And I just want to have a disclaimer here and make it really, really clear. Like, making an impact is not about working for humanitarian roles, not for profits, working at a charity. I mean, it's not necessarily directly on a mission to solve one of the world's biggest problems, right? It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Those are super noble, they're super rewarding career paths, but it can be simpler than that. And I always like to go back to the story about the time in 1961 that President JFK went to visit NASA headquarters, and he was walking around and he came across a janitor, and he asked the janitor what he does around here. And he proudly says to the president, "Sir, I'm helping to put a man on the moon," because he could see the connection between what he was doing and the bigger picture. So I'm going to give you an example of just some of the missions or purpose statements that some of my clients have to get you thinking about how it might be more simple than that. It's around actually helping others often and feeling useful. So one person's purpose statement might be around helping organizations to examine their workplace wellness practices and their culture and improve those so that their employees can feel happier and healthier, importantly, and more successful at work. Another might be helping to create unforgettable travel experiences for people so that they can really understand the true beauty of a new culture and also learn more about how to protect our planet. One might be around helping women to get promoted in the workplace more often so that they can smash the glass ceiling. It could be about helping communities to band together more often to decrease loneliness. It could be about driving innovation in the fashion industry so that the fashion industry becomes more ethical and more sustainable. It can be helping children to access better education around sexual health and body image and consent so that they can have healthier relationships growing up. It can be helping employees to save more time and be more efficient and effective in the workplace so that they have more time with their families and aren't, becoming workaholics that are doing 80 hours plus per week. It can be all sorts of different things, but the most important thing is that it often comes from really deep inside you. It really comes from what you've experienced in life, what's important to you, the kind of role models that you have. It's a really, really big question, obviously, finding out what your purpose is. And I actually have a free course which is called Find My Why, and it's a free 5-week course that actually takes you through the process of finding your ikigai, your reason for being, in other words, your purpose. So if that's something that appeals to you and you really want to try and figure out what that might be for you, I definitely recommend downloading it. I think you'll really enjoy it, and it will definitely help you to get a lot clearer on what your purpose is and what that means for you. So in summary, yes, you can feel very, very passionate about your work, but it's not a result of following your passion or finding your passion. Passion comes with time. Passion is a result of doing what you're naturally good at in an environment that works for your values and your personality, and where you can actually feel a sense of purpose and meaning and connectedness to the bigger picture. So I really hope that this video helps you on your quest to finding more fulfilling and enjoyable work that feels like you, that's naturally aligned to you, and allows you to feel energized on Friday at the end of the week rather than exhausted and deflated. And if this is the kind of career advice that you know that you've been looking for and needing, then feel free to subscribe to the Badass Careers YouTube channel. I have videos dropping every single week on these kinds of topics. You're joining a community of high achieving, ambitious millennials who want to make a difference to the world and want to use their career as a way to do really amazing work. So with all that said and done, stay badass, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!